correspondents will answer all your questions every Sunday at noon. Free money, helping you to learn to take control of your financial future with a safe, simple system that everyone can understand. Free money, Sunday at noon, right here on 980 WCAP, where everybody gets.
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate it for that music one for Welcome to the Jungle. This is the Kamara Kay Show on 980 WCAP, the voice of the Merrimack Valley, where everyone gets it. So welcome to the jungle. Once again, this is going to be 1 hour radio talk show, so it'll be hosted by me, no than others. Kamara Kay. And you can be able to participate with this program here by calling in at 978-454-4980. Once again, 978-458-98. I'm so sorry, 4980. We're going to have a lot of interesting conversation. This is going to be the inaugural conversation that we're going to have. This show here is going to be based on the perspective from the Asian community in the Merrimack Valley. So please tune in into this radio show. This is going to be also broadcast live. If you guys will be able to go ahead and watch my YouTube video on the Kamara Kay Show. And I do encourage you to go ahead and call in to to chime in some of the issue that you have. What we're looking at here is a couple of things that we're looking at in the city of Lowell. There is a big motion that has been submitted by Councillor Visna Nguyen in the city of Lowell for the support of the Cambodian sanction against a human right violation by the Hun Sen regime. That is, there are two bills that's going on right now. One is in the U.S. House of Congress, which is H.R. 5754, and the other one in the U.S. Senate, S2412. So the Cambodian community is going to be gathering tonight specifically. I believe they're going to be starting gathering around at this time at 5:30. So ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, if you have some opportunity, please go down there and support their effort into getting the Cambodian community voice being heard throughout the United States in support of their country, so that they have a strong unified voice in order to demand a fair and free elections and for the treatment of the human rights that has been violated by the regime in the past 5 years. So please come down and join them in regarding to that. Second, recently when we're talking about the point of view from the Cambodian, or rather the Asian point of view, in this radio show here, there is another interesting thing that some of you may or may not have seen on the national news. There is a Cambodian lady by the name of Elizabeth Hing that is running for the U.S. Congress in the 16th district in the state of California. Her Facebook page that she put up an ad together that depicted the Khmer Rouge regime as one of the most atrocious genocidal regime from 1975 to 1978. When she put that ad onto Facebook in order to let people know what her background, where her father, her mom, where they all met and so forth. Facebook decided to say that is not within the community safe, whatever they call it nowadays, that they're going to ban it. After an uproar from Breitbart, from Infowar, from the Drudge Report, and then Facebook decided to go ahead and turn around and said, okay, we'll make an exception so that you can be able to go ahead and have that ad in there. So chime in for that and say, what do you think about Elizabeth Heng banning by Facebook because she happened to depict a skulls on some murderous regime that has happened between 1975 to 1978 for that. Third, as we all know that last week Senator Elizabeth Warren she went down to the state of Louisiana, have stated that she called the police department. She called in the police department as a racist from front to the back. And that from that point on had sparked an opportunity for the chief from Yarmouth Police Chief Frank Frederickson and chief from Dudley Police Department, Stephen Wojner, I hope I pronounced his name right, who's also happened to be the president of Massachusetts for Chief of Police Association here, have rebutted against her and called her. That was to ask her to verify what she meant by the police system or the police department and the criminal justice system is nothing but a racist from front to back. And here joining us today, we have the Republican, the U.S. Senate Republican candidate that is vying to compete in Elizabeth Warren hopefully in November to answer some of the questions that we may have. Jeff, you still with us? You on? Hey, Jeff. Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you. Thank you for calling in. So I just have this question for you. Welcome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And as I give an introduction to you in regarding to the police chief from Yarmouth, Frank Frederickson, and the police chief from Dudley, Chief Stephen Wojner, in rebuttal wrote that letter that I saw in questioning, asking Senator Elizabeth Warren, it's like, what does she mean? What does she mean by the criminal justice? Our criminal justice system is nothing but a racist system from front to the back. And I know that you have asked her to retract and to explain what is she meant by that. Is she doing this as out of rhetoric, or is this thing is going to be help incite some sort of violence against our police officers that have done nothing but to enforce the law that Congress have enacted?
So for her to make that statement about people who are trying to keep American citizens and Massachusetts residents safe is wrong. And I'm very glad that the police chiefs have come out and questioned her and said that they're very disappointed with those comments, because that doesn't help bring us together. That just divides us as a community, as a state, as a country, and it doesn't work towards solving any of the problems. Is the criminal justice system perfect? The answer is of course no. There's always going to be flaws in anything, but the goal is to try to find the answers and solutions to work together, not to just out and out blame people for being racist. And again, this is at a time when police officers in Massachusetts, 4 of them have been shot over the last 4 months, Two of them have died from their wounds. Thankfully, two of them survived the attacks. But, there's a fear by police right now that if they use any sorts of force to protect themselves or other citizens here in Massachusetts, they'll be the ones on trial rather than the criminals they're going after. So it's very bad timing for her to make this statement. And then it was made even worse, Cam, when we found out just this last weekend that somebody from Cambridge who's a supporter of Elizabeth Warren made a threat and a $500 bounty offer to anyone who would shoot an ICE officer, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer. And, of course, Elizabeth Warren, a few months ago, called for the abolition of ICE to get rid of that department. And so when you have this kind of rhetoric that really divides and angers people, you create situations where somebody may take up arms and go after our officers that are just trying to do the job of keeping us safe.
Right. Well, thank you for leading into one of the gentlemen in Cambridge that was arrested by offering someone to kill an ICE agent for $500. To your knowledge, has Senator Warren have retracted that statement or condemned such of incitement for her follower to have done so?
No, I haven't heard anything other than her saying that she wasn't saying that the entire criminal justice system, any individuals were racist. But again, how do you call an entire system racist from front to back, meaning everybody involved in it, if you aren't saying that everybody is somehow responsible for the racism in the system? And by the way, that includes lawmakers. Right here on Beacon Hill a few months ago, I was
that means you too, right?
I was part of a vote to reduce criminal sentences, to put people, get them diverted out of prisons, whether it was drug courts or veterans courts, to make sure they didn't serve prison time. We're trying to do our best to keep people out of jails. I think the system in Massachusetts is one of the best in the country in trying to reduce incarceration, and I think that's something that she wasn't factoring in. Of course, she was speaking in New Orleans at a black university, and to me, what she's doing is she's pandering to certain audiences that want to hear this message, that want to undermine the judicial system, the legal system of our country, because she's part of a progressive far left group that really believes in more of socialism and government running everything versus I think the system that we have that's working in our country and right here in Massachusetts. The free markets, I think, are the best way to keep people working, get them more jobs. And here she is trying to basically make people unhappy with the American system that's currently in place.
So more or less a divide and conquer, so that she can be able to get reelected and pandering to.
Not just reelected, Cam. Clearly, at this point, she's traveling around the country to make the case that she should be the candidate to run against President Trump in 2020, and that's why she's gone to states like Ohio and campaigned for a Democrat candidate for governor there. She's been to Nevada just a few weeks ago, which is an early voting state. She's going to every place where she needs to, try to become known for becoming the nominee for the Democrats in 2020, and that means that she's reelected here in Massachusetts. She will spend the entire 2 years between now and 2020 campaigning around the country and continuing to do nothing for our state, and hopefully not, she doesn't get that opportunity, because clearly we see that when she's out there, she makes statements that really, again, are just there to divide us and make us angry at each other and not bring us together.
Very incendiary statement as well. So continue with your campaign. I appreciate it for you to call in the short notices for this here, Jeff. How's your campaign going? And the reason why I'm asking you is that I saw a report on WGHB, I guess, I forgot what the television channel it was. One of the hosts was a little bit upset that you and John Kingston would not participate in the debate with your primary opponent of Elizabeth Warren. And you have stated in there, according to a report, is that if John Kingston not going to participate in that debate, you would not. Why would you not want just to debate one-to-one with Beth Lindstrom?
Well, first of all, we had our debate last week. Herald Radio had a debate with all three of us. But at this point, again, unless we have all three of us there stating our positions, I feel like it's best to have those ideas brought out where we can debate each other, all three of us, because it's three of us in the campaign. And so, for me, It's a matter of, I'm still out there talking to people every day. We committed, if all three were committed, we would do the debates, but one of the candidates refused to be part of it. So we said, well, look, this is not supposed to be a one-on-one. It's supposed to be a, three-way race, and that's how it's going. So, look, for me, we've been campaigning for 14 months already. I've been across the state many times, talking to people, and obviously I've been in Lowell quite a few times. I think people know what I stand for. They certainly can go to my website, dealforsenate.com, DIEHLFOR, Senate.com, to learn more. And again, if we have an opportunity where the three of us can debate, that's fine, and we've committed to that. But, again, if one of the candidates does not want to be there, I want to make sure that people understand who all three of us are. So, look, I actually have an event tonight with Herman Cain. He's come up from Georgia to help campaign for me. He'll be speaking on my behalf, and we've had Sean Spicer come up to do an event. We've had Governor LePage come down to do an event. I've certainly been out there in the public, letting people know where I stand on the issues, and I think people know at this point what I'm all about. I think that's why when we had the convention 5 months ago, I was able to win that overwhelmingly, more than 2-1 to my nearest opponent. So people have been, they've certainly heard of the three of us speak. We've certainly been at events together and spoken. It's not like people don't know what we're about, but again, I'm looking forward to a chance to, I think, win on September 4th, and then ultimately November 6th, replace Elizabeth Warren with someone who's going to actually work for Massachusetts rather than use our state as a springboard, which she has, obviously, for the White House in 2020.
Right. Considering that once you get elected to be the next junior senator from the state of Massachusetts, what is your assessment of SCOTUS nominee Brett Kavanaugh that President Trump nominated? And people said he's very divisive. He's going to overturn Roe versus Wade, and other people are worried that he's just going to be a strict constitutionalist, that he's not going to overturn anything unless...
Scrutinized and vetted by the Senate previously when he was appointed to the Second Circuit Court, Federal Circuit Court. And so I think that shows that he has had the ability to get support from both Republicans and Democrats previously. Now, right now, as he's being appointed by President Trump, things have changed down in Washington where, again, people like Elizabeth Warren announced that she would vote against him before his name was even announced. Her job is to sit down and listen to the nominees and determine how she's going to vote about them. She already had made up her mind well before we even knew who the nominee was. That's not what you're supposed to do. And one of the other things about Judge Kavanaugh that I think is good is that he is someone who is a constitutionalist, meaning he wants to, he wants to make sure our country is rooted in the constitutional rights that we've been given, and not try to legislate from the bench, but just interpret the laws that exist and apply them. And I think, he's also mentioned in the past that he believes in precedent. So I think that there's a lot of fear about that's being generated about him that is unwarranted. And I think Judge Kavanaugh, I'm looking forward to the confirmation hearings and learning more about them, because as we saw with Neil Gorsuch when he was going through the confirmation process, a lot of that was televised. I think it's a great chance to get rid of the fear that Senate Democrats are trying to put out there about someone who's a family person, has been a great judge, and I think will be a fantastic Supreme Court judge as well.
Okay, that's excellent. So one question before I let you go, and I like to make a comment there. I follow some of your campaign and all of that. My thing is that I missed the opportunity to meet Governor LePage from Maine, and then I missed the opportunity to meet Sean Spicer from the former White House White House.
Secretary, yeah.
Thank you, press secretary. And then you got Herman Cain. Herman Cain and I share a common background, to say the least. He is from Stockbridge, Georgia. It is the very same city that I live in. I used to live in Stockbridge for about 10 years, and I knew exactly where Herman Cain lives at. He's about like 3 or 4 miles away from me. So I would love to go and meet him. Not anything against you, Jeff, but I'd love to go meet him. But but the timing, it doesn't go my way. So one last question, as I wanted to ask you. Now, Governor Charlie Baker have signed the automatic voter ID registration. I have not been able to read the exact language from that bill yet. How is it that if someone would get a driver's license and is not a U.S. citizen, will he or she be automatically registered to vote in the state of Massachusetts?
No, well, that's the thing. We actually switched several years ago, and I think it was 2015, we switched to Real ID to make it so that getting a Massachusetts driver's license was actually more difficult than it had been before. In fact, at one point, we were on track to not be able to use our Massachusetts licenses to get on airplanes or go into federal buildings because of the lack of security. Now that we've switched to Real ID, which does a very thorough background check, it's virtually impossible to get U.S. IDs and become get a Massachusetts license unless you are truly a U.S. citizen. The only exception I'll say is that recently there was a sting, and Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, came to Massachusetts and did a press conference with Andrew Lelling, our U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. They did a sting operation, and they called it was double trouble. They found 28 people who had come from the Dominican Republic and had gone to Puerto Rico and gotten Puerto Rican driver's licenses illegally, and then came to Massachusetts and transferred over. And that's the only thing, is that we've got to make sure that we continue to have strong IDs in other states, because as a weak link, if you come here, you don't want to have somebody ultimately get a Massachusetts license under any false ways. But really, we're doing our best as we can as a state. It's just that there was a sort of a loophole there, and luckily the federal authorities have figured out what's going on, and they're cracking down on that. But at the same time, unfortunately, in the past, we also know that there is no ID to vote. I mean, to me, the ultimate thing I'd like to see is showing your ID to vote. Many people just go in and declare that they're a citizen of Massachusetts, and they can go in and pull a name out of a phone book and say that they're eligible to vote and vote currently without showing an ID. So that's really, I think, where we need to crack down, is having ultimately the show ID to vote.
I agree with you. The first time I came back to the state of Massachusetts into Lowell, and I went to the voting booth, and as I was living in Georgia, every time I walk into to identify who I am, I pull out my driver's license, my ID, to provide it to them to verify who I was and so forth. Over here, I went up, they just asked me and I identified myself and my address, and they said, "Oh, there you are, check mark. Here's the ballot, go ahead and vote." I'm just like, I stood there kind of dumbfounded for the next 10 seconds. It's like I said, this is weird. I have never experienced something like this, but I guess, different states have different policy and different laws in terms of voting and so forth. And
well, the other thing too, Cam, is that Boston city councilors had actually put forward an idea of having people who are here as non-citizens voting, and we asked Elizabeth Warren, how does she stand on this? We never got an answer back from her. To me, that's a real terrible idea, is this idea of having someone who's not even gone through the process of becoming a citizen voting. I mean, here you've got the Democrat Party talking about how they're worried about foreign countries influencing our elections, and yet you've got the Boston City Council basically wanting to say, hey, if you're from another country, go ahead and vote here anyway.
Right.
That's the most direct influence on our elections possible.
Right. But for me, it has always been fearful unless I'm become the United States citizens, which I did in 1995, so I can be able to get that privilege to vote in the local and national election. So, Jeff, I know we're getting to the top of the hour here, so I know you got some other activities coming up. If I cannot be able to make it to your event tonight, would you kindly send my regard to Herman Cain, that I love his show and the 999. The Hermanator will always be there.
That's fantastic, Kim. I appreciate it. I will let him know, and he's certainly a great businessman. I come from a business background as well, just trying to make government more accountable with our tax dollars, and at the same time, the success of the tax reform in 2017 has given Massachusetts a lot more jobs, a lot more income. So I want to continue on that role, and I will let Herman Cain know that Cam Kay would love to see him sometime soon.
I'd love to, and I'd love to have him on my show too, just to talk to him, and my admiration since he was running for the presidency of the United States until now, and became the host to replace Neil Woods on WSB Radio down in Atlanta. It's a great show, and I'm glad he's up here. I'm glad he's endorsing you. I like Herman, and have fun tonight. If I can't make it, I will dearly missed it. So thank you for your call, Jeff.
Thanks, Cam. Take care, and thank you to your listeners as well.
You're welcome. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. Thanks, Jeff Deal, for calling in today. And right now we have at 5:58 p.m. and I guess soon we probably gonna go into the top of the news. Or you give me 2 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. When we come back, please join the show by call 978-454-4980. And will we be back soon?
980 WCAP, Lowell, Haverhill, Lawrence, Methuen, Nashua, and Salem, New Hampshire, serving the Merrimack Valley.
Because enjoy live music outdoors all summer long at the Lowell Summer Music Series at Boarding House Park in downtown Lowell. Postmodern Jukebox performs today's hits in vintage style Friday, August 17th. And Blues Travelers Saturday, August 18th. Plus, classic albums live, Dark Side of the Moon, Friday, August 24th, recreating this Pink Floyd iconic meteorologist. Wherever
Coast Guard Reserve is ready for you. Learn more at gocoastguard.com.
Sponsored by the United States Coast Guard in cooperation with Massachusetts.
You see the
Broadcast
quality of
Association
the thing?
Station.
Because enjoy live music outdoors all summer long at the Lowell Summer Music Series at Boarding House Park in downtown Lowell. Postmodern Jukebox performs today's hits in vintage style Friday, August 17th. And Blues Travelers Saturday, August 18th. Plus, classic albums live.
Hey, we
Dark
got
Side of the
another
Moon,
contribution.
Friday, August 24th.
Yours, $25.
Iconic album. No Cutthroat Fiddle champions Natalie McMaster and Donald Leahy. Saturday, September 1st.
All right.
Don't
$75.
Box, Friday, August 17th.
Island Pedals, here Bob said another
And
$25.
Travelers Saturday, August 18th.
Can I take a picture of you again? Would that be all right?
Downtown
Sure.
Lowell is your
Now you're
destination for
celebrity.
live music all summer at Boarding House Park. Get tickets
I
at
have to pay for this photo.
lowellsummermusic.org.
So what we also have
turn around.
YouTube Live.
Wonderful.
So we have YouTube Live
You do.
going on right now. So,
People, oh,
yeah, right
I
there.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Say hi, this is John McDonald. Hi, everybody. So John is going to be on the show a little bit soon. We're going to be interviewing him. Like, we're going to go ahead and finish with the conversation with Beach a little, and then we go for there. I know I do need some oil for that, right?
I'm close. I'm close.
You're not going to lose it. If you lose it, you already lost it, so you'll be fine.
It's very thin.
Yeah.
Of course, I never let it grow anymore.
Rhode Island since 1988. They offer all types of insurance and represent
Yeah,
many
I don't-
different
I look at-
companies,
if I-
so they
if I
can
have to
select
go
the
bald
right
and
one
shave,
for you at the right price.
So I don't know which one is the mic for the guests to turn on, the number 3 and number 4. So,
It's what I did when I was.
or Cindy, the one that turns it on.
Do this. When you come back live on air, hit 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all on.
Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Yes. Thank you, Cindy, for the beautiful introductory song. The reason why I love Welcome to the Jungle, ladies and gentlemen, is to bring me back to the very first morning when I have to get up at Norwich University as a member of Corps Cadets. What my cadre did, they just put, remember those tin cans? They just toss that thing around the hallway and they just kick everybody's door open. We were widely awake and they said, "Welcome to the jungle." Woo, that was one mighty happen. It's great to be on that. So, our next guest here, by the way, welcome to the Kamara Kay Show. This is the second hour of the show here. If you'd like to join or chime in into our show here, the phone number is 978-454-4980. Again, 978-454-4890. Yeah. And on the line we have Mr. Beach Dash. So welcome. The Beach Dash is one of the candidates for the 3rd Congressional District, vying to replace the next nominee for the seat that Nikki Sangers is currently holding right now. So, welcome, Bish. How are you?
Hey, Cam. Good to hear your voice and be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Well, the pleasure is mine. I appreciate you for calling in. And also, I just want to let you know, in the studio, we have no other than the great John McDonnell, who is happened to be the first Middlesex State Senate candidate, the almighty John.
Hey, John, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How's my favorite Democrat?
I was going to say that about you being my favorite Republican. This is going to be a love fest.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, hey, look at I think you're doing a good job out there, and you're a business guy. So there's not to mention you're just a heck of a nice guy. So I mean, it's been nice to get to know you out there in the campaign trail. So
that is.
John, I wish our campaigning will teach the rest of the country that Democrats and Republicans don't have to be enemies.
You're absolutely right. Yep, it's a great point, and you and I know that, and I think most of the people out in the trail know that. But unfortunately, that's the type of thing that is not reported out there, and there's an awful lot of us that get along. We just have a little differences to how we see, and we think that the world should operate from a political standpoint.
That's right. I'm out here in Acton doing a little canvassing, and just ran across somebody who was a registered Republican, but he said he hated both parties. And he said he hated us both.
Yep.
And I said, well, maybe we can convince you otherwise. And he said, well, if you make it, we differentiated ourselves, as I think you've heard. We're kind of the biggest differentiator is that we're playing as the anti-establishment candidate, which is obviously ruffled some feathers, but it's who we are. We've gone through the district, and I have understood that the voters are looking for people to represent them versus lecture to them, and I think that's what's appealing to voters. We're hearing it all over the place. Today I was at the commuter rail station in Lowell, and then we've coursing throughout the district canvassing, and a lot of people saying, I've been told that I need to look into you. I haven't heard your name yet. Now that I'm paying attention, I've been told that I need to look at you, and so that's good. That means that 55% that's undecided is beginning to take this race seriously, and if they do, I think we've got a great shot at winning this thing. Even though we're the non-establishment kind of common sense Democrat in this race. I haven't. What surprises me, and I know Cam, you and I have talked about this before. Fundamentally, nearly 50% of this district voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
And when you go through the district, it's not the same narrative that you hear elsewhere in the mainstream media and just generally. There are a lot of people who still support him, and so my job is not to lecture to them that they shouldn't be supporting him. My job is to take their concerns and represent them faithfully in Washington, including in the interactions that I message. So fundamentally, I think that's the message that people are really impressed by, and so I think I've been blessed that that's kind of where we are. Otherwise I would have needed to raise a couple more $1 million and yell at the president and hope that worked. So
well,
I think things are going well.
Okay, that sounds excellent. You touched one of the part that I find rather comical to my point of view as, as a registered Republican in the city of Lowell here. Yes, I am a registered Republican and proud of it, by the way.
Lowell?
Yes.
Wow.
And
There's two of us.
oh, don't forget about John, right? Right.
John's over there. I forgot about John. Are you still there, buddy?
I'm just listening. I've been told to be quiet.
Yes, I did. I had this big sign that said, "John, please, this is my show, the Kamara Kay Show, not the John McDonald or the J Mag and the Bear Show." Thank you very much. Next question, please. B, isn't that to me? It is very I don't know. Can I use the word comical or ironic that hearing from you and the rest of your fellow opponents on the Democratic side has spoken very eloquently of trying to distance themselves from the established condition that has been there for decades. I know you and I have touched base one time that I always been irking at the fact that politician has been there for 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter whether the person is an independent like Bernie Sanders or Nancy Pelosi, how long she's been there, 40 years, or John McCain has been there 40 years. Why is it, do you think, that all of a sudden that both of the candidates from both sides of the aisle all of a sudden trying to distance themselves from being the established candidate?
You know, I think, you know, the importance here is that people are finally frustrated that every couple of years they're told one thing and then a couple of years later they get something else. And so, you know, if you look at this field, there are 5 candidates that are solidly establishment candidates, right? They've been in government, they've raised political money, they've done all this stuff. And if you ask them a question, you get the same answer that we've gotten for years, which is party line orthodoxy, right? And fundamentally, I think people are sick of that stuff, and I think people are looking for a viewpoint that's not necessarily strictly aligned with a party's viewpoint, and that's why people are trying to distance themselves from the establishment. The irony is that, you know, that includes a lot of establishment candidates. You know, the you know, 2 of the top fundraisers in this election that are trying to be mavericks are beholden to the system that created them. And so you can't be a maverick when your donors are basically, you know, front and center on the who's who of political players.
Right.
And you know, for me, it becomes a question of hypocrisy. It becomes a question of all of those things. It's you know, I'd really like to see a little bit of change in our viewpoints, because fundamentally, unless we do that, unless we make a change, and unless we say, look, you know, it's time to elect somebody who's common sense, we're going to get more of the same. I think that's the biggest issue I have with this process.
Right.
I don't want more of the same.
I agree with you on that, and you know, my anticipation, Nikki Sankis, I thought she was going to be for another term, and then she retired, and she took me by surprised by my knowledge and how she was acting and behaving throughout her entire tenure as a U.S. Congresswoman from the 3rd District here, and then she decided to retire within 10 years. So my hat's off to her, and that's when she's realized, she said, I've served my constituents to the best of my ability, to the best I know how. It's time for me to give that mantle to someone else. So it's right now, it is 6:15 p.m. in local time here on WCAP. Bish, I'd like to go ahead and give you about 1 minute and how our audience can be able to reach out and look and explore more about your campaigns and how they can be able to get in touch with you. And go ahead, fire away, sir.
Thank you. Well, listen, you know, it's great to be on your show. Thank you to WCAP. WCAP listeners have been very informed on this election, and I appreciate all the support that we're getting. You know, we, as a candidate, I have made it quite clear that orthodoxy from the party is not what I will sign on to. So I am a small business owner, and I am a constitutional lawyer. I was one of the first people on the picket lines for the lockout for the National Grid employees, and I did so because what's happening to them is emblematic of what's happening to workers in America. Big multinational and sometimes foreign companies are taking away the American dream. And I think fundamentally, if we want to change, we want somebody like me who's not beholden to the special interests, who can actually take truth to power. People who want information on my platform or me can go to DAS, which is DAS.
D as in David, right?
OR Congress, DASCongress.com.
Sweet. So I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in, and have fun and good luck on your campaign. Hopefully you win, and we'd love to have you come back here. And especially I'm going to go ahead and invite to all the candidates on September 4th, which happened to be on Tuesday. I will be on air. Please call in to encourage all the listeners to come out and vote, either for you or for some local candidates, especially for you, I assume. And going from there.
Thank John for being on. John, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Absolutely. It's great to hear your voice. I wish you the best of success out there, and it's nice to have somebody on your side of the aisle with some common sense and business knowledge and a passion to help people. So thank you.
Yeah, remind Rick Green of that, will you? I'll talk to you later, John.
Talk to you
All right,
later.
thanks for the call. So, back onto the studio.
Yes.
We have no other than the John, the J-Mac, and the bear himself, the former host of WCAP Radio here on 980, where everybody gets it.
Absolutely.
You got it.
And
So,
I am thrilled to be on here, your inaugural show. I remember when we broadcast for the first time. It was very distinctive in my mind, and
Cindy did okay for you? She
oh,
found
she's
music
wonderful.
and-
She's wonderful.
So will that work out for your...
It always works out, sir. It always works out. Yes, sir. So,